This is Ken Smith reminding you it happened today, May 15th, but the year was 1602. Cape Cod is discovered by the English. It was on this day, May 15th, 1869, that the National Women's Suffrage Association forms in upstate New York, founded by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. It was on this day, May 15th, 1905, that the city of Las Vegas is founded in Nevada. It was on this day, May 15th, 1928, that Mickey Mouse makes his first ever appearance in a silent film. It was on this day, May 15th, 1941, Joe DiMaggio starts a 56-game hitting streak. It was on this day, May 15th, 1957, evangelist Billy Graham launches his crusade in front of 18,000 people at Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was on this day, May 15th, 1987, that the last episode of The Late Show with Joan Rivers airs after she is fired by the Fox network. It was on this day, May 15th, just last year, 2019, Mexico City declares an environmental emergency after air pollution reaches dangerous levels. But all that happened on May 15th in the past. This is May 15th, 2020. In Singapore, a robot dog named Spot is patrolling one of the parks as part of a coronavirus-related trial. The four-legged robot dog is going to patrol an area of the park over the weekend and has the capacity to broadcast messages to remind people to keep a safe distance apart. The machine, made by US-based Boston Dynamics, is fitted with a camera to monitor how busy the park becomes. If all goes well, the authorities are considering expanding the program. The government says it's also using Spot in another task at a local isolation facility where the robot helps bring medicine to patients. Nearly 40% of those with a household income below $40,000 reported job loss. They were fired, let go, placed on furlough. They're not receiving a check this past March and April, according to the Economic Well-Being of U.S. Households reports. Tuba City, Arizona. The virus arrived on the Navajo Reservation in early March, when the late winter winds were still blowing off the mesas and the temperature at dawn barely rose above freezing. It was carried in from Tucson, doctors say, by a man who had been to a basketball tournament and then made the long drive back to the small town in the Navajo highlands. There, believers, attenders at church, were preparing to gather in a small metal-walled church with a battered white bell and crucifixes on the window. On a dirt road at the end of the town, a hand-painted sign with red letters points the way. to the Church of the Nazarene. From that one single church, the virus took hold on the Navajo Nation, hopscotching from families and clans and churches and towns, and leaving the reservation with some of the highest infection rates in the United States, crowding tradition, poor medical opportunity, all tangled together in an area of that Navajo Nation 3 times the size of Massachusetts, and creating a viral catastrophe. Most of the general ways of fighting the spread of the virus, hand washing, isolation, are difficult. Why? Because 1/3 of the homes in this vast, dry reservation don't have running water. Many in this close-knit Navajo community live in crowded houses where self-quarantine is impossible. Many have to drive hours just to get to the nearest grocery store. In addition, to most Navajo, isolating an infected person from their family is deeply alien. And so the meeting in the church, which brought people together from across the region, included everything from discussions of church finances to a joyful meal of roast beef. They prayed for strength in the face of the new virus, which seemed like a distant worry. Instead, it had already entered their midst. We're such a small town. We're so remote, said Evelyn Cleveland Gray, a tribe official who struggled to keep the residents from panicking as the virus ripped through the town of about 500, eventually killing more than a dozen people. We never thought it would hit us. By now, the loss is felt across the Navajo Nation. There are roughly 175,000 people on the Navajo reservation. It straddles from Arizona, New Mexico, small corner of Utah. The nation has seen 3,122 cases, a rate of nearly 18 per 1,000 people, and at least 100 people have died. To put that in perspective, if the Navajo Nation were its own state, it would have the highest per capita rate of confirmed coronavirus cases in the country, only behind New York. In the states that it spans, the number of cases and deaths among the people who are Native American on and off the reservations is disproportionately high. And so in the midst of a day of some bad news, some good news, some confusing news, it's always important to remember that behind all of this, that this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is Ken Smith reminding you it happened today, May 15th, 2020.